So when let's go back. Let's rewind this tape a little bit here, just so I can tell you what the this is the War Brides dynamic, but people have questioned me about this. Does the War Brides dynamic conflict with the Alpha Widow dynamic? And I'll explain this to you, but after I tear up another Jasmine Jafar.
Just recognizing our evolution. The reality is women were designed. One of the reasons why women can move on quickly.
Come to think of it, it's like, what the fuck is Dubai? Get your bitches back in pocket, man. What happened to not in my country, Rolo? These women have love for Allah. I was like, Jasmine Jafar, Farah, and Sadia Khan. The defense rests, Your Honor.
Heartbreak and relationships and go from one man to another is in evolutionary times. If they lost their partner to war or to predators or whatever it is, they'd
evolutionary times. Guess what, Sadia? We're still in evolutionary times. Let's keep going.
have to find another one. Even if they shared him with another bunch of women, they would have to do that. Otherwise, they die.
Okay. What she's trying to like mumble out of her mouth here is the War Brides dynamic. If you've read my book, my first book, there's a chapter in there, a very healthy chapter in there called War Brides. And War Brides was a concept that was discussed in what became the Manosphere, really on So Suave. And it was a understanding of pretty much, she kind of like gets part of it right here. It's that in evolutionary times, but not evolution times. It's like in tribal times, might be a better way of saying it. You can go back to the Old Testament and see examples of this, but you don't even have to do that. You can go far, far back, where if you look at tribal warfare, the reasons why one tribe goes in and raids another village along the coast of Norway, down the coast, the Vikings come in and destroy your village. They kill all the men folk, and they kill the boys, and they take all the women because they're spoils of war. Women have always been spoils of war. And it doesn't necessarily have to be my people, my brutal barbarian brothers. It could be, like I said, Old Testament. You'll find examples of this where the Lord says, go in and kill all these people in this tribe and whatever the Philistines were. I can't remember which one it is. And this is, by the way, I'm getting this from Alpha God by Hector Garcia. And we'll go in and it's in the Old Testament, like go in, kill all the men folk, kill the boys, and kill all the women, by the way, who have known a man, and take the virgins for yourself. Why would that be a thing? Well, because that they're incubators of the next generation. And why would they have to be virgins? Why would they have to be a fertile young woman who can bear children? Well, because if they have never known a man, then you know that the baby coming out of them is probably going to be you or one of your boys from your tribe. Right? That's the social dynamics behind really what is a reproductive strategy for men. Unfortunately, that includes EPAR, grape. That grape is a sexual strategy. It's a mating strategy, ugly as it is. Ladies, I don't care what you have to say about, it's a violation. Yeah, it is. But the nuts and bolts of the practicality of it is it's a mating strategy. It's an ugly one. It's an atrocity. It's a crime. Yes, I 100% agree. But the function is basically reproduction, or at least the ultimate outcome, the ultimate growth, or the ultimate goal is reproduction. So save all the virgins for yourself and kill off all the men and all of the non-virgin women and integrate them into your tribe. And she's sort of loosely mumbling this, but this is straight out of everything she said is straight out of the Rational Male. Now, has that been proposed in other places? I'm sure it has, but she's more or less kind of, mumbling this shit. And it's directly out of my book from like 10 plus years, almost 11, 10 and a half years ago. And by the way, not even that. I can show you blog posts of the same thing from 2011, and I can show you posts from So Suave about the same thing from probably about 2006. So it's been around for a long time. The idea of war brides. Now, how does that go against the concept of the alpha widow? Because a lot of people will say, well, Rollo, why is it that I had to answer this question so many times that it's what prompted the idea of the war brides dynamic? Rollo, how come my girl can get over me so fast? And that's what she's trying to, articulate here. Why is it that women get over a breakup faster than guys? Well, because psychologically, a woman's psyche has been conditioned over the course of millennia to say, you know what? Well, I need to find the women are looking for the better and bigger and better deal. They're looking for the best they can do. If they broke up with you, clearly you're not the best they can do. So they're looking for the best they can do. And they say, well, gosh, I can't believe it's so heartless. She's such a bitch. It seems unethical and immoral. And blah, blah. And well, you can put it in those terms, but from practical terms, the reason why she gets over you quicker than you get over her is because, well, you've got more invested in that because you need to make sure that the babies are yours. Paternity as an investment is one thing. The other thing is that, again, it goes back to what you were saying before. In tribal warfare, women were spoils of war because they were incubators of the next generation. If a woman couldn't get over losing her previous husband and her sons and maybe even some of her daughters, if she was unable to do that, she would just be killed. So the women who could get over that, who developed psychological mechanisms and sort of like ego protection mechanisms in their hardware or their firmware, the ones who couldn't do that died, and the ones who could lived. That's how the war brides dynamic works. And I know people go, oh, that's horrible. It seems so dehumanizing, Rollo. I can't believe you think of women like that. I don't make the fucking rules, man. I just work here, man. I just work here. So by me telling you that, I'm a son of a bitch. Okay, I'll be a son of a bitch, I guess. But now what a lot of people want to confront me with is this. It's like, well, if that's the case, then how come women who are alpha widows, how come they can't get over those guys? Like they just simply keep coming back to that same watering trough. They keep coming back to the one that got away. Doesn't that conflict with the war brides dynamic? And the answer is no, because the alpha widow dynamic is much broader in spectrum than the war brides dynamic. What do I mean by that? Well, an alpha widow doesn't necessarily have to have an actual man who is the alpha that she's widowed from. Usually that's the case, but it doesn't have to be. It can be the woman who's been unsatisfied in her sexual relationships for a very long time, never met the guy who was good enough. And we're seeing more and more and more of those women today, especially because of the paradox of choice. The globalization of the sexual marketplace has led to women who fantasize about an alpha that doesn't even exist. But that guy, the fantasy, the idealization of that alpha is just as real to her perceptually than the guy who might have rocked her world when, the hot guy in the foam cannon party in Cancun on spring break. She was drunk, he was cute, and one thing led to another. That guy might actually exist, but there also might be Jack Reacher. There also might be Jason Momoa or Aquaman. You got to think of the characters, right? There's a character in her head. Maybe it's you want to know why romance novels are so popular amongst women is because the alpha widow dynamic applies to that fiction and that fantasy. So it's not just about a real, actual, living, breathing human being individual. It can be about an idealization and a fantasy. So it's not always just about that. Now, it can be, obviously. So it's some guy that she met back, the one that got away in college who was so cute. And I wonder what would have happened if I could have got with Brock, the quarterback, Brock, the bartender. I wonder what would have happened if Brad would have actually committed to me and we would have had babies. I wonder where I'd be right now. My life that could have been. That's the alpha widow dynamic. And it's like you're fighting with the ghost of cocks in the past, like ghost of boyfriends past. It's usually the guy that like rocked her world in bed mostly, but the alpha widow can't get over the guy that she just simply can't get over with. Now, does that mean she's going to go die for that? Probably not. But it does mean that maybe on a psychological level, she might name your firstborn son after David or Chad or Brad. If you want to know why your wife insists on naming your son Brock, that's why. That's why. I see this. The thing is, like, this probably happens more commonly than we think, and I'm again spitballing here. I don't know. I don't have stats for this, and I doubt women would ever cop to this. But I think we're far more aware of women who who name their sons after the one that got away, the alpha boyfriend that they can't get over. I think it probably happens a lot more than we realize, and we're only a little bit more aware of it now because we live in the social media age where we can see videos of it, or we can hear stories of it on a forum or a blog, or somebody says something in a video, and you just have to be sensitive and watch for it. But why is it that women don't want to take your last name? Same reason. Because she, on some level of consciousness, she thinks that you're not the best that she could do or could have done. Why did she name your son Brock? Because she thinks that he was the best that she could have done, and she wants that constant reminder, and wants the son to be at least some sort of embodiment or a reminder of the one that got away. So it doesn't have to be an actual person, or it could be, but that person, whether living or breathing or an ideal, is still the idealization. So that's really, when you're talking about an alpha widow, it's not about so much about an actual person as it is about the idealization of the guy that was the best that she could do. And if she can't find some permanency in that, she's going to find something that's going to remind her of that by naming him Brock, by hyphenating your last fucking name. That's pretty much the psychological mechanism that's at play here.
So we have these instincts in us that we can't always explain. Now, a woman's instinct is always to be somewhat looked after. It doesn't even have to be financial, but just...
Okay, so she's talking about security versus fucking. Okay. And again, butchers this. She is so ham-fisted in her descriptions of any of this stuff that it boggles the mind. I'm wondering... And people have said this. I've read this on some Reddit forums that she has handlers that like sort of feed this stuff to her. And it seems to me like every time I see her talking about stuff like this, that she's trying to like remember and then like this rote memorization as opposed to her actually understanding this shit, because she's a product. So now she's talking about, women want security and da da da. Let's put a violin. Let's put a violin soundtrack in the back and make it seem like she's really concerned with the state of men and women today. She's not. She's a fucking product. If you follow this bitch, you're actually the product, right? If you get something for free, right? If you sign up for something for free, you're the commodity. So if you're following this and she's what Mike has said is the guru or the dating coach that you're allowed to follow by your girlfriend. She's approved by Girlfriend TM. Girlfriends are us. Registered trademark 2024. Yeah. So again, she goes into basically says the beta buck side. Well, women want somebody who's going to be there and concerned about them and security side. And it's basically provisioning, protection, and parental investment. And if she could have remembered that at the time, I'm sure those words would have fucking tumbled out of her mouth, just like anything else.